Hi everyone. So today we are looking at lesson 2.1, evaluating functions. So when we're done with these notes, you're going to tape them into your journal. So keep that in mind. I wouldn't tape them in until after you've completed the notes. Okay. Our learning target for today's lesson is I can evaluate functions in function notation. I can identify what is the input. That's important vocabulary right there, the word input, otherwise known as our x's. Okay. I can substitute the input into the function. I can simplify the function to find the solution, which is actually the output. And if the input are the x's, outputs are the y's. So keep that in mind. And then I can write my answer in function notation as an ordered pair as well. So let's go ahead and look at what that means and what is function notation. So firstly, we've talked a little bit about how a function can be like a vending machine in class. So think of a function as a machine that assigns one input to exactly one output. Okay, and this is what a function looks like. You guys are probably used to seeing it look a little bit more like y equals mx plus b. But instead of the y, we have an f with parentheses and an x at the beginning. So let's talk about what that means. Okay, the f itself is kind of like the name of the function. Okay, that's its name. So we might have other names instead of f, like g of x or h of x. And that's how you say it, by the way. I'm going to write it here in quotes so you know how to say it. F of x. So a lot of times you'll see y equals replaced with f of x equals, or g of x, or h of x. The reason why we name the function is because sometimes you might have more than one line or more than one graph on the same coordinate plane, and you need to be able to tell the difference. Just like I need to be able to tell the difference between you guys in class. That's why you all have your own name that I use. Okay, so the name of this particular function is f. Okay, the x that you see there in the parentheses are the inputs, otherwise known as the x values, right? And another word for them is the domain. And once we have input our x's, the right side is going to be our output, the right side of the equal sign, or the y's. You could also refer to it as the range of the function. So we input our x's and the outputs are our y's. So we're going to look at how to do that now. So when you're given a function, if I give you the x value of the coordinate, could you give me the y value of the coordinate? So let's look down here. Look at this. F, instead of f of x, this actually means f of 2. So if you want to write out how to say that next to it, that might be a good idea. F of 2. I put it in quotes because that means that's how you say it out loud. Okay, f of 2. So that means you're inputting 2 into the function. Now, which part is the function? Let's go back up here and look at the top. There's the function itself. So I'm going to take the right side, the 3x plus 4, and anywhere there's an x, I'm going to replace it with 2 because that's what we're trying to input. Our input is 2, so we're replacing every x with 2. And then we're going to calculate it. So what is 3 times 2 plus 4? 3 times 2 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So our input was 2 and our output was 10. And yes, you can write your answer. That is our answer. But if they ask you to write your answer as an ordered pair, you would write the input first and the output second, because remember the inputs are your x's and the outputs are your y's. So what you really just found, that point 2, 10, is a point on this line. If we were to actually graph this line, this is a point on that line, 2, 10. I can plug in any number, any input, and get the output that goes with it, and that point would be on that line. Okay, let's try another one. So this time our input is -5. F of -5 means we're inputting -5. Okay, so -5, we're going to input it. And remember, look at the right side of the function, okay, which is 3x plus 4. So anywhere there's an x, I put parentheses. And in place of those parentheses, we put the value that we are inputting into the function. In this case, it's -5. So we want to find out what 3 times -5 plus 4 is. And you can actually use your calculator to help you with this as well. So on the calculator, what you would do is either create a new document or calculate, either one. I always like to have just a new document. A regular calculator is all you need. And type in your function. Our function was 3 parentheses 3x plus 4. But remember, we're replacing x with -5. This is the negative button, not this, that's minus, -5. So whatever you had written down on your paper is what you should type in. So if you don't know what 3 times -5 plus 4 is, you can type it in your calculator. We get -11. So our output then is -11. That's our answer. But occasionally you might have to write your answer as an ordered pair, where the input goes first, the x, and the output goes second, y. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and open up and do a few practice problems. So I put the little machine here, but keep in mind that you don't have to use it. We're going to try and do it now without that if we can. Okay, so keep that in mind. The letter does matter. Some of them use F and some use G because we have two functions. We have the F function here, and we have the G function over here. Remember, that's why they have two different names, right? That they are two different functions. So I'm going to try and color code them as well to help with the notes. So since the first one's asking for F of 3, remember that's how you say it, that means replace all the x's with 3, okay, in the F function. So I'm using F this time. So I only need to use the right side. They basically already have the left side. F of x, now it says F of 3. So we're just going to do the right side of the equal sign. But anywhere there is an x, see how I left a space where the x was? In place of that x, I'm going to plug in 3. So 3 minus 3 squared plus 4. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 squared is 0. 0 plus 4 is 4. But once again, I did tell you you could plug this into your calculator, and I'll show you where the squared button is. Parentheses, 3 minus, the minus button is next to the plus button. Close the parentheses, and the squared was on the outside. It's right here where it says x squared. Okay, and then plus 4. 4. So let's try the next one. This time it's g of 3, so we're using the g function. See how it says g? So we're going to use the g function, negative x plus 1. So this time we will need negative x plus 1. See how I put parentheses where the x was? But that negative that's in the front is still there, okay? So negative x plus 1. Anywhere there's an x, I'm replacing it with 3. So what is negative 3 plus 1? Negative 2. Now take a minute, pause the video, and I want you to try the other two that are on this page. Okay, so in these two problems, check your work. I replaced the x here with -2 because that's what it told me to plug in was -2. Anywhere there's an x in the f function, I'm replacing it with -2. It tells you, the problem tells you what to input. So I input -2, okay? And then I typed that into my calculator, honestly. See, here's the calculator. I typed in -2 minus 3 squared on the outside of the parentheses plus 4. And then I hit enter, and it is 29. And then the next one I believe was -0 plus 1, and we get 1. Okay, you can type these whole things into your calculator. Now let's see what that looks like in a real world context. Well, this is one you might see on the STAR test. Okay, I'll let you give that one a try in a second. But looking at this one, a real world context, number 2. Okay, we have the function given to us right here, p of n. Notice they didn't use x this time. There's our function. So this time it's saying that n is the number of pies. Keep that in mind. And p is the profit. So that's what we're trying to find. What's the profit if the baker sells 400 pies? So anywhere there is an n, we're going to replace it with 400. So P of 400 is equal to 52 times 400 minus 0.05 times 400 squared. But a reminder, guys, is that you do not have to type the entire thing in, okay? Keep that in mind. You only need to type in the right side in your calculator. And this one's a bunch of big numbers, so I would type it in. So type it in and see what you get. Remember, n stood for the number of pies, so that's why I replaced n with 400, because I knew what n stood for, and it told me in the problem. So type that in, get your correct answer, and go back and try number 1. Pause the video and give those two a try. Okay, guys, here's the answer to number 2. Remember, you're only typing in the right side to get your output. We know we're inputting 400. P of 400 means that we want to know the profit when there are 400 pies. And once we type all this in, we find out what that profit is. $12,800. And you can see how I typed in my calculator here. With the parentheses and everything, and the squared being on the outside of the parentheses, I hit enter. I get 12,800. So that's how much money we would make if we sold 400 pies. Now let's scroll back up to number 1, because some of us were a little bit confused when doing this problem, because the x, remember, in this problem has to be replaced with -8, which is what I did. But some people forgot there's a minus already there. One minus is already there, but then I also have to put in -8, so it looks like there's a double negative, okay? So really, it's 6 parentheses 1 minus -8, and let's see how to put that in our calculator now, okay? So 6 parentheses 1, the minus button, which is next to the plus button, -8. Then close the parentheses and hit enter. It is 54. Because for those of y'all that remember from middle school, a double negative is the same as a plus when they're right next to each other like that. So that double negative actually really becomes a plus. So 6, 1 plus 8, which is 9, and 6 times 9 is 54. And so you can just type it in your calculator, but you can also calculate it yourself. F of -8, when the input is -8, the output is 54. So now what I want you to do, guys, is fold this in half, a booklet, and then tape it into your journal. And then once you've done that, come pick up this paper from me. It'll be on the corner of my desk. And I want you to give these a try. When you've completed them, bring them to me and I will, this is the front and then these two are on the back. Bring them to me and we'll check your answers, okay? Have a great day, guys.